Okay, so now this one, if you try and go through the same four-step process, you're not going to be able to get all the x's to cancel. If you let u equal the bottom one and then solve for that, you're going to end up with a 2x left over and you're not going to be able to cancel it. So this one is going to be done a little bit differently. Remember that you got to look for those special forms. If you have square root of two things squared, like for instance this one, I can turn it into 1 over the square root of 2 squared minus x squared. That means that this is going to be a type of inverse trig function. So inverse trig is what you're going to use here in this case. So in fact, the formula that I have here is, if I have an a squared minus x squared here, it turns into inverse sine. So actually what I'm going to do is just use the formula directly. So this kind of goes a little bit away from the four-step process we talked about. So this is going to be, I'm just going to integrate it directly. That's going to turn into inverse sine because of the format. Again, it's written as a squared minus u squared, and so the inverse sine works. You have inverse sine of u over a. The u here is just going to be an x in this case, and then the u here is the a here is 2 because that's the part being squared. So I get inverse sine of x over 2. So this right here gets integrated directly into this one, and I can still use the same limits of integration I had before. I'm just going to put the 1 and the 0 in there. So now it just turns into inverse sine of 1/2 minus inverse sine of 0/2, or it'll just be 0 there when you do that. Okay, so we have to just remember some trig here for each one of these. Okay, inverse sine of 1/2, that's our 30 degrees, which is the same thing as pi over 6. And then this one over here, inverse sine of 0 is 0. So then when you subtract all that, you'll get pi over 6. So pi over 6 would be the final answer to this one. So if the regular process for u doesn't work, if you try and go through the four-step process, you run into a dead end and you don't get something to cancel, then you might want to think about looking at your special formulas for inverse trig functions, because that might be one of them. So usually if you see something with, if you have something without the square root there, you just have something squared minus something else squared, or if you have a square root and an x on the outside, that's when you want to take a look at some of those inverse trig functions. That's how you will know or recognize when you want to use one of them, when your regular traditional process for u doesn't work. So again, pay close attention there to those inverse trig functions.